The Court of Nightmares was the work of a god. While under the mountain had been a series of halls and rooms and levels, this was truly a city. The Hewn City, a place of such terrible beauty that it was an effort to keep the wonder and dread off my face. Music was already playing somewhere, and our hosts still did not come to greet us. Feyre entering the Court of Nightmares in A Court of Mist and Fury, page 404.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Massive Encyclopedia. I'm Rev.
And I'm Cat.
We are your hosts through this world of Sarah J. Maas.
In this podcast, we're building a full cross-series encyclopedia with characters, world-building, Easter eggs, and all of the connections SJM has been hiding in plain sight. Rev, do you want to get us started with a chapter summary for chapters 40 through 44?
Yeah. We go to the Archeron household and we meet the queens. Not all of them, because one is missing. They demand proof that Rhysand is doing good for all of humanity, Fae, everyone, before they will work with him. And the group needs to get the Veritas orb to show the human queens Valeris, which takes us to the Hewn City. That's where the Veritas orb is. It's with Mor's family. And Azriel is going to steal it from Mor's father, Kier. Our group has to put on their evil personas, and we get to play like we are the famous Night Court bad guys for a bit. Super, super fun. Mor's dad angers Rhys by talking bad words. He calls Feyre a bad word. And then Rhys just happens to break several of his bones, including his pinky 4 times on his arm. You know, no big deal. Rhys questions Feyre about what she wants out of her life. This is after they leave the Hewn City, and her mind reels with thoughts of being with Rhys. But she wonders, is it too soon to move on to a new love interest? Then, the last part of the chapter chunk, we have the Starfall holiday. Feyre is dressed to the nines. Azriel is stereotypically checking out more. Feyre and Rhysand have a moment when they both get hit in their faces by these little crashing wild freefall stars, and they admit that they want to dance together under the Starfall. Kat,
okay.
How about you get us into our analysis?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about 3 topics, the human queens and that whole interaction. We're going to talk about the Hewn City and everything that happens down there, and we will end with Starfall. So let's start with talking about the human queens. You mentioned it in the summary, but let's talk about there's only 5 of the 6 show up.
Yeah. Can you tell me about, there is one, did you say her name was Vasa? Is that the one that doesn't show up?
She's the bird one from Silver Flame, I think, because she's a human queen.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that they show up without her, and we notice it as readers. They're supposed to be the 6 human queens. Only 5 show up, but SJM doesn't really address it.
She says one of them, she says she's sick.
I just think that it is so much more important that I feel like our group, Rhysand, should have been like, no, tell me more about this. 6 of you were supposed to be here. This is kind of what we agreed on.
So we learn a little bit more about the queens. Like, they're all different ages. They're different skin tones and nationalities, different eye colors, different hair colors. 2 of them seem to be like mirror images of each other. But one of the things they all have in common, this is on page 382, is they all have silver rings. Do we think those rings are magic? Or do you think that those are signs that they are royalty?
Like a fraternity ring versus like a purposeful
like a sovereignty ring, yeah.
I think that they are spelled, and here's why. Because we do know they have the power of winnowing. Right? And they even mention, hey, this was gifted
from
to us from the time where we all made the treaty, when we got our half of the Book of Breathings. So I believe that these rings are not, and I don't think they're iron. I do think they're silver.
They are silver.
And I think the rings are probably spelled with some kind of power that allows them to winnow. And that's how they got this gift, right? They were gifted these rings. I don't know, just my opinion.
What are your thoughts on the queens in general?
I think they are all kind of bitchy, to be honest.
Hard same.
Yeah. Like the way that they are trying to flex on Rhysand, and they're just like, well, you guys kind of made this problem. Why don't you guys defend the humans that are here? This little strip of land, this is nothing compared to the amount of humans that we have to protect on the continent. We're willing to give this up for the greater good. And like, if Feyre's like, wait a second, that's not okay. Feyre's family lives there. And Nesta's like, there's children here. There's families here. What are you guys even saying? And like Nesta, who's usually the one that's just like, screw everyone, is like, whoa, hold on. We're not going to screw everyone. We actually have important people that matter. You guys are supposed to be representative of the power of the humans, and you guys are just letting us get destroyed.
So on page 384, the Golden Queen didn't smile as she mused. A human turned into a high fae, and who is now standing beside a high lord at the place of honor. Interesting. And then a few lines later, the eldest declared to Rhys, you have an hour of our time, make it count. They also recognize later in this chapter that he is the most powerful High Lord, and that he's the bad guy. So the balls on these queens to be speaking to him like this is shocking.
We've bestowed our time on you as though they are not also going to be victims of everything that is coming. Like they're asking Rhysand, come, make the best use of this time that you are lucky that you get from us, while completely ignoring the fact that they are also going to need the Fae's help to defeat the King of Hybern. It's almost nonsensical the way they're approaching it, as though they're not going to have to also deal with this.
What is the point of this meeting? So, on page 386, our half of the book, child, does not leave our sacred palace. It has not left those white walls since the day it was gifted as part of the treaty. It will never leave those walls, not while we stand against the terrors in the north. They were never going to give them the book. So what is the point of this meeting? What do the queens get out of this other than hard flexing on Rhysand?
They get nothing, and they've actually put themselves in a worse position than they were before they came to this meeting, is how I feel about it, because they're starting to make enemies of people that want to be their allies.
But here's the other problem. One of the queens does give them the book. One of the queens does see what's happening, but it seems like this eldest queen, who seems to be their spokesperson, I guess, is hard stopping everything that is happening. And I just don't understand what drives these characters here.
The only thing I can think of is the person who gives them the book is the youngest queen. Right?
I think so. I think she's
like
blonde.
The blonde. She's blonde with the curly hair.
Yes, because that's the one that is killed in Valeris.
So who is the one that jumps into the cauldron because she wants to be forever young?
I think it's the oldest one.
If she's the spokesperson, is that the person who's driving this? Her ultimate goal maybe is to go there and say, no, I don't want to give you the book, but then it's a bargaining chip to get what she wants later on in the story.
Or do you think it is her way of working with Hybern and to be able to say, I've spoken with Rhysand, he knows that war is coming. Also, they mentioned that Miriam and Dracon are still alive. Like, is this a fact-finding mission for the queens as part of their deal with Hybern?
It's really interesting that these queens continue to talk about this continent that SJM doesn't really tell us about, right? We don't know
it's not
anything
on the map,
about the
I don't
humans.
think.
It's not even on the map, right? There's that other weird little island on the right side, but I think it's in a later book. Hybern has something specific against Prithian and the Fae, and he's willing to leave the other humans on the continent alone if he could just get rid of the Fae. It's all very convoluted, and I can't figure out what our end game is here with any of these characters.
I was looking at it as I was rereading it, thinking, these queens know that war is coming. They know that something bad is going to happen. They have already secured their own safety. They are working with Hybern, and he is going to turn them into Fae. He's going to have all of the power of the cauldron in the book. I think this is them trying to fulfill part of their deal with Hybern. But we don't ever see that until the end when they show up with the cauldron.
I also want to talk about the fact that they can winnow. So
Yes.
if it has to do with those silver rings, maybe it doesn't. But the fact that they were given that gift, what does it say about the human queens and how they are viewing humanity, that they had this deal with the Fae that they could winnow and they have half of the Book of Breathings, but they are working for Highburn and on this fact-finding mission? Like, how, I think Nesta calls them out and she says, it is the choice of cowards. And Nesta calling the queens out when they are making such obviously poor, cowardly decisions. I like that Nesta is on the right side of this. Reese is on the right side of this. It's like foreshadowing, right? That like, this is what's going to happen.
So I was going to mention this a little bit later. I also think it's really interesting that the last line of this chapter is, and it was Elaine, who sighed and murmured, I hope they all burn in hell.
Dear sweet little Elaine.
A little Elaine, the one who everyone has to protect, the one who can't say a bad word about anybody, condemning and wishing the worst torture on these 5 queens.
I think that everyone sees it as so obvious that the queens are being negligent in their duties. If these are the 6 human queens and supposed to stick up for the human people, even sweet little Elaine is like, this is not what good people would do.
Do you know what it reminds me a little bit of? Tamlin. Because when they were under the mountain, Tamlin was like, I'm just going to live in my little spring court. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to send people out to go and try and break this curse. Then I'm going to stop because I'm tired of people dying. The summer court was leading a rebellion, trying to break this curse. Rhysand was doing what he could. Like, there were people who were fighting the good fight, but Tamlin wasn't. Tamlin was just sitting back, letting things happen. These queens do not care about the war because at the end of the day, they are safe. They are fine. They've made their deal with the devil. I think they're just going through these motions so that it can be said, well, we did meet with the Fae and they would not help us.
I think a lot of it has to do with this queen that is the spokesperson who really, really wants to jump into the cauldron. I think she is leading this whole decision-making process on behalf of the humans and is purposefully negligent in sticking up for the humans. I think Tamlin did it because Tamlin was weak and Tamlin was scared. I think this human queen situation is being driven by the one who wants to jump in the cauldron to become forever young.
But then arguably the other 4 queens there are weak. And
yes,
they are just letting things happen.
They're being passive instead of, they are being negligent instead of being proactive with the honor that has been bestowed upon them to be like one of the people that wears those rings, one of the people that gets to winnow, one of the people that is in a high position of power, and they're just being passive. None of them deserve to be in this position of protecting the humans. And I honestly think it would be better if it was Rhysand and Feyre and Nesta and Elaine and our other people protecting the humans, even Summer Court, because these appear to be the only people that care, that are willing to risk it for the biscuit.
I want to talk a little bit about what does this mean for Feyre? You know, she is a human who had these ideals, and Nesta and Elaine as well. Like, they have these ideals. They have these feelings about, like, what it's like to be poor, what it's like to be rich. And they have these hopes that the queens are going to do the right thing because it's what they would do. But nothing happens the way it's supposed to happen. And Feyre has had so many somersaults in what's going on. She had to go to the spring court. She had to fight through these trials. She died. She came back. She nearly married someone who she didn't want to marry. Now she's in this other court. And now she's finding out that the humans who she died for, she died so that nothing like what happened to Claire Bador would happen again, are saying, this little strip of land doesn't matter. The people here don't matter. It's such a blow, but we never see Feyre have those feelings.
I think we see it when Nesta calls them cowards. And I think that we can take from it that Feyre probably has a lot of feelings about this, right? Like, this is her family, the people that she died for, the people that she doesn't even like that she died for, all the people that treated her family like trash for years, and she still died for them. It is interesting that SJM writes it the way that she does, because I think she lets us experience it as the reader, because we always see everything from Feyre's perspective. So, like, if we were to hear Feyre's thoughts on this, that becomes our thoughts, right? Like, we are the main character of this story. She lets us experience this through the way Feyre is seeing it. Just watching it play out gives us permission almost to feel the way that we want to feel about it, instead of forcing that on us. She lets us come to that conclusion naturally by not telling us Feyre's perspective, because we obviously would have just taken Feyre's perspective.
Sure. So I have one more question for this section, and then if there's anything else you want to add on, feel free. On page 388 is when the Ancient One's eyes were bright as she declared, "Give us proof. If you are not the High Lord that rumor claims, give us one shred of proof that you are, as you say, a male of peace." What do you think the proof is that they are expecting? What could he possibly give them? Because they don't know about Valeris.
Maybe something related to why Rhys feels the way that he feels about Feyre, and why he's even asking them this, because they've got to be like, you are the worst High Lord. You're the most evil. What could they expect him to give other than what they can see with their own eyes? Well, he took Feyre in, and Feyre was a human, and now she's Fae.
They don't seem to care. I don't think there's an answer, but I thought it was interesting that they were like, show us proof. What could he show them?
What I think is interesting is we know Valeris is protected and it's secret. We know when we get to the Hewn City, we're going to talk about that and why we're getting the orb and all that. But in the meantime, look at what Mor does. Mor shares the secret about Miriam and Dracon being in the island. And Rhys is like, what are you doing? And I think in Mor's head, she's like, well, it was that, or show them Valeris. Mor is taking the stand of continuing to protect Valeris by giving them Miriam and Dracon.
So we're going to have a side quest episode about Mor next week. I have some thoughts about that revelation, and I'm not going to mention it here, so tune in next week for that. I have a very specific thought on why she says what she says. But
okay, so I guess we're going to move on then.
We're going to move on. Let's move on to the Hewn City, unless there's anything else for the queens you wanted to add on.
I have nothing else. I would like to move on to the next topic.
Okay, so the Hewn City, we know that Amarantha based her place under the mountain on the Hewn City, or the Court of Nightmares, and we're finally getting to see it. We've gone chapters and chapters. Feyre has not been able to go under the mountain. We also see our characters change into the Night Court characters. We have Evil Rhys, we have the Lord of Bloodshed, we have the Spy Master, and we have the Morrigan. Why don't you talk about what are your thoughts on how the Inner Circle are, and how the people of the Court of Nightmares react to them and treat them?
The Night Court definitely has on their bad guy masks, right? Like, Rhys-Anne has to prepare Feyre, and he's like, I don't even really want you to go. And she's like, no, I'll go. I'll do my part. I'll put on my bad guy mask too. You are about to meet Court of Nightmares, Rhys-Anne. And he's like teasing her and touching her. You know, Mor's walking around with just this air of being better than everyone. Cassian is being his hard-ass self with his face. Asriel disappears into thin air, going and looking for the orb. And everyone in the Court of Nightmares acts like this is normal. Nothing is out of the ordinary for them in the way that they're reacting. So we see that this is the regular faces of these people when they face the Court of Nightmares. And it's so deceptive in that we know who they really are, and we love all of these characters because they're all so good, and they play bad guys so well. And it's interesting that Feyre slips into that so easily and also has her bad guy mask on and does it perfectly without exception.
Well, so on pages 407 and 408, when you were talking about Rhysand coming in as the big bad, it's the way it is described. We are seeing the High Lord, capital T, capital H, capital L. And before the crowd could begin murmuring, I felt it, felt him. The very rock beneath my feet seemed to tremble, a pulsing steady beat. His footsteps, as if the mountain shuddered at each touch. He had released the damper on his power, on who he was. His power filled the throne room, the castle, the mountain, the world. It had no end and no beginning. This is power. This is not the Rhysand who goes out to eat or goes drinking at Rita's. This is the man who, like you described in the chapter summary, breaks Kyr's body, literally causes him so much pain that he passes out because he says a bad word to Feyre. One word, and he takes him out and says, if I hear that you went to a healer, it will be worse.
So here's my question, right? Is it because he called her a whore? Because Rhysand was referred to as Amarantha's whore? Or was it because he cares so much about Feyre and knows like how vulnerable she is and that she's just putting on this mask and feels like protective of her because this is her first time having to be big bad and bad guy mask? I do think it's interesting that he goes that far and breaks Kyr's arm in 4 different places, breaks his pinky, completely demolishes him, sticking up for Feyre, because it kind of shows the side of him that he doesn't want anyone to see, that he cares. Right. So what is it that does it? Is it that he talks shit to Feyre? Or is it because he uses the word whore and he takes that word so personal?
I think it could be both. Because he does the same thing to the queens when they start talking to him or talking to Feyre as though she's a child. And he's like, do not speak to her that way. Do not talk to her as though she is not a part of this. He stands up for her. He knows what it's like to be in Feyre's position. He is essentially the Amarantha of this situation. But it's also, do not talk to my plaything unless I give you permission to, because that's mine. But also, he is making sure she knows she is safe.
I mean, all of it.
I do too. I mean, sure, is it a red flag? Maybe. But red is my favorite color. So
let's talk about, if we're talking about Hewn City, about this whole perfect reason, this whole perfect excuse for them to do the things that they want to do. Because they have their bad guy masks on and touch each other in the feels and the nuzzles and the getting close to each other. And like, I think they both love that they get to play bad guy, and they both love that this is a good excuse for them to just get handsy with each other.
Well, I love it. So all of the times I've read this book, I always remember this scene. I mean, I think this is one of those like hinge moments. This is so important. But on page 416, he says to her, it's okay. It's your body reacting. It's natural. And I think, you know, I've seen a lot of TikToks and Instas about this, but I think I've always taken this to mean he's like, it's okay. I know you don't feel this way. It's fine. This is just your body reacting. Almost like it's him saying, I went through the same thing. Like, your body just reacts a certain way. But on this reread, he says it's just your body reacting. And before he can finish the sentence, she is making a joke of it to say, because you're so irresistible. She is, with that sentence, saying, I know, it's fine. I'm not in a bad place. Like this, I'm okay.
She says it in the very next sentence. My attempts to deflect sounded strained. Even in my mind, she is trying to deflect and be like, it's all good. It's all good. We're just playing our parts. But we know they are not just playing their parts. They are both
no
so happy that they get this opportunity.
And like the end of this chapter chunk is her realizing like, I did like that. What does that mean about me? And I know we're going to get into that at a later point, kind of talking about the Rhys and Feyre relationship.
On page 416, where we just were, where he's like, it means nothing, it's just your body reacting. Below that, she says, we danced around and teased and taunted each other for months. And maybe it was my body's reaction, but it maybe was his body's reaction. And we know later on in this chapter chunk, he says, what is it that you want? And she starts thinking, is it too soon to want another guy? Like, I just got out of this thing. Would it be weird if I wanted this guy? But I think that is the conclusion I'm coming to. I do want this guy. And she justifies it here on 416. But she ends up committing in her head and saying, maybe it would be too soon to go for another guy. But I don't think Reese would think that because, like right here, we've been doing this for months. He knows I want him. I kind of know he wants me. Neither of us have the bravery to say it to the other person. And he gives her this out. I think when he says, it means nothing, it's just your body reacting, he's trying to give her an out because he knows how bad he wants her. He knows the thing at this point. We know that he knows. And he's trying to be, I think, respectful and say, I think she wants me, but I don't know. But is it too soon? She was just with this other guy. I know she loved him. I know she's my mate. There's so much mentally going on and swirling around with this little bit of them playing with each other, both of them.
I feel like this chapter chunk feels like the eye of the storm before next chapter chunk. We are getting so many very intense moments. She's wearing a diadem and dressed to the nines to the queen's meeting. This under the mountain scene is sexy, and it is him literally burning a world down for her. He destroys the steward of the Court of Nightmares, who is a relative of his because it's Moore's uncle or Moore's father. And then in the next chapters, we have Starfall. All of this leading to the next chapter chunk. It's all like we're right there every single time. We are just right at that edge of will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? Can they, can't they? And this, I think, is that big one because you're right. Now, this is the time when they can get away with touching in a way they can't when they're in Valeris because
they're acting right now. So they can play it off and they can be like, I'm just acting. I don't actually have to own the fact that I really do want him. I don't have to own the fact that I really do want her and I care about her and like that we're mates. Like I can pull this off right now. This is my freedom moment where I just get to do what I want to do and I can put it all off on I'm being bad guy right now.
Now, can I ask a question? Kier says to her, you'll get what's coming to you, whore. What's coming to her? She's Feyre Cursebreaker. That's how she's introduced. What does he mean by that?
I think that the way that I interpreted it is that he still sees her as a human.
Okay.
Even though she's Fey now, but she was gifted all of these little kernels of power and reborn into Fey. But I think that he is one of those people, one of those Fae that sees humans as lesser than. And he's like, how dare you deign to act like you deserve anything? Like you even deserve to be here. You're sitting on this High Lord's lap and you're just a human. Maybe you have all these powers, but you were born a human. You weren't born Fae. Therefore, you deserve nothing. You're going to get what's coming to you because you've stolen this stuff from us.
And you're a female. It is a very misogynistic culture, as we will discuss when we talk about more. But it is, I think part of it also is you're nothing. You aren't worthy of being even on his lap to be on that throne, which is why it is so good when she sits on the right. But that's why it's so good later on when he has her sit on the throne and he sits on the side. Like, I love it. 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 I also want to talk a little bit about kind of the PTSD of Under the Mountain. Like, this is her going underneath the mountain, and we never really do you think she's healed?
I don't think she's healed. There's still those issues there. But I think she's grown because now that she sees that we had the whole last chapter chunk with the nightmare with Rhysand and sees that he's still suffering. So I think she sees that it's okay to not be healed and to move forward because I'm not the only one. Rhysand has also been suffering. If he can do this, I can do this. Right? Like we're both here. We're both playing a part. We have a mission. Let's get this mission accomplished. We are not going to let our outside things become bigger than the power that we're going to choose to use. The power we're choosing to use is to be strong and go and get a mission accomplished. We're not going to succumb and be weak and let these things get the better of us. I think there are two things that give her the strength to be able to do this. One is understanding that Rhysand has just as much PTSD as she does and still can walk forward and through it and put on the bad guy mask and get a mission accomplished. The second thing is when Amren gave her that amulet and let her go under that mountain and then told her that amulet was nothing. You actually did this on your own. That amulet meant nothing. And so she now realizes, I do have the strength to do this. If Rhysand can do it, knowing how distressed he is and he can move forward and be the bad guy, and Amren showed me that I could do it with an amulet that actually meant nothing, I can do it. And so I think that gives her the power to, but I don't think she's over it. But I think knowing that other people aren't over it makes her feel stronger.
I agree. So speaking of this, why is Amren not there? Is it because she's working on the book?
I don't think that Amren would ever go to the Court of Nightmares because Court of Nightmares / Under the Mountain / the prison that she was in. And she says, I will never go down there again.
Sure.
I don't think she would ever go there. And I don't think Rhys would ever ask her to.
Okay. I'll believe that. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. But it is interesting that she's noticeably absent.
That is just the respect for all of his court and the inner family that Rhysand knows how far he can push people and where we don't push people. And we never would.
Right. For Rhys, it's always about consent. It is always about, it is your choice if you want to do this.
Rhysand is such a good man.
I mean, we say that, but, he didn't really give Feyre the consent with the Weaver, or she did, but not enough information. But he also knew she could do it. And that was him pushing her. She could have called for help at any point. And I think she thinks that at one point. I know if I called for help, he would be there.
It's kind of like when he forces her into this contract to come back 1 week out of every 4 weeks, when he forces her to read. It isn't consensual. And this is when we talked about it at the time. We were like, how do we make sense of this? Where there's some things that he does without her consent, even though it's for her benefit, when we bag on Tamlin all the time about her not having agency with what she wants to do with her life. It is a very fine line. And to be honest, I don't know how we justify it, because what if somebody thinks they're doing the right thing for you, but it's not? Does that still make it okay? It's a really fine line. I don't know how to justify it.
I don't either. So ending on that question mark, I think we should move on to our third topic, unless there's anything else from the Hewn City that you want to talk about.
Yes. There are so many more references to things being like cats. And one of them is when we're down in the Hewn City. No one for me to punish, says Rhys on page 411 to Keir. A cat playing with his food. There's so many more that I will mention in the mentionables, but that happens in Hewn City. And I'm like, what is with SJM and cats?
She loves them. And you know what? So do we.
So do we. We are cat people and dog people. We are pet people for sure. Okay. Do you want to move on to Starfall?
I do want to move on to Starfall. So Starfall happens on Ninsar, which is referred back to, on page 34 is when we learn what it is. Ninsar, a minor spring holiday to celebrate the end of seeding the fields and to pass out the first flower clippings of the season. And it's interesting because, it's so different from everything else. But it's a spring holiday, so like we have to think spring court, but similar to like the tithe, the night court seems to have its own holidays that coincide. So like maybe these are just special days. But I think it's interesting that Amryn doesn't go.
Yeah, doesn't Moore say something about Amryn? There's something that makes Amryn uncomfortable with Starfall.
431. Something about Starfall disturbs her, she claims. Who knows? She probably does it to be contrary. But we don't know what Amryn is. We don't know what world she comes from. When Rhys is talking to Feyre about it, he says... So this is kind of a weird thing. So it's on 435. Our ancestors thought they were, meaning stars. They're just spirits on a yearly migration to somewhere. So they're spirits of what? Of whom? From where? Are these maybe the same things that Amryn is? What is it that Amryn doesn't like?
That's what I was questioning so much. I can't figure out. I can understand why she did not go to the Hewn City, right? But what is it about the Starfall? It seems like something that's so beautiful and magical, not having... It's exactly the opposite of being anywhere under a mountain or in a prison. You're out and all you have is this beautiful show in the sky. It seems like something that would be the opposite of what she doesn't like. But Amryn's just a weirdo, you know? Like, I get it. We never hear any more about this. Ever. It seems like the way that SJM pointed it out, that it would be something that would come up, that we would hear about again. I mean, TBD, right? We still have more books. But it seems like the way that she's phrasing it is like it's an issue of something that we would hear more about later, but we never have yet.
Right. But on page 426, Amryn is the one who tells her about Starfall. Outside of these borders, the rest of the world celebrates tomorrow as Ninsar, the day of seeds and flowers. But Starfall, only at the night court can you witness it. Only within this territory is Starfall celebrated in lieu of the Ninsar revelry. And the rest and the why of it, you'll find out. It's better left as a surprise. That does not sound like someone who, like, chooses not to go. Like, she's making it seem like this is a fun party, that this is something that's so special to the night court. And Amryn's a part of the night court. So why doesn't she go?
Yeah. Also, the rest and the why of it, you'll find out. I feel like we don't really find out about a lot of Starfall. Like, it's the spirits that are going to somewhere and no one knows why and no one knows how or why they chose this day or this time. But like, and then the stars like splash on their faces.
Right. What is that? Is that gross?
Is that actually a spirit then? Like
are they just getting splatted with spirit goo? What is this?
And it's also like, I thought it was mush because she talks about like painting on Rhys's hand through the star mush.
Yes.
But then it's also star dust. But then she's also back to painting. There's a lot that is not consistent, I feel like, with this whole thing, including this part of Amryn describing it in such a way that sounds so beautiful. Like, this is our introduction to Starfall. And she's not there, and like, she doesn't like it, and she's being contrary about it. There's so much that is mixed up about this Starfall. SJM, we need more.
I want to see another Starfall. I would love to see more out of Starfall. Like,
I also want the dress that Feyre is wearing.
So this also, I think this is the first dress from Rhys's mom's stash. Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I know.
Oh, it's like, like the sound, like you get, it's a visceral, it is a full experience dress where she can hear it hissing and slashing as she walks. Like, it's so beautiful. Oh, I want to see it.
I want to wear it. I want to own it.
And I want to know if it's gross that they have spirit splash on them.
I have called it so many things. It's mush. No, it's dust. I don't know. What is it?
Right.
Is it gross?
Is it gross? Like, in our notes on our drive, I'm like, is it gross? Is it supposed to be sexy? And he says on 437, it looks like your freckles are glowing. Like, that's beautiful. What does it mean?
It says on 437, splattered star spirit.
That does not sound sexy.
It sounds gross.
How do you wash it off? And does that mean these spirits aren't going to the place that they want to go? Maybe that's why there's so few of them, Reese, because they keep splatting on people.
They keep hitting your face.
But like it reminds me a little bit of like fireworks. Like those like sparkler fireworks is what I'm imagining. But like, I don't know. It's weird. It's supposed to be beautiful and it's beautiful in my mind. But at the same time, it's also weird.
Rhysand does not spend this Starfall with these whoever special people are invited up here. And it's obviously not the Hewn City people. So is it Valeris people? We don't even know. Oh, also, that's an entirely different thing. This guy that Cassian meets. I know you brought it up.
Who is this guy?
Who is it? But
who is it? We know all of his friends.
To finish this point is he takes Feyre up to a different separate balcony so they can have their own little alone time. And he doesn't spend the entire time with all of these people, even though it's his first Starfall back. He wants to take Feyre away and just get a little alone time with her.
And we learn that he was, like, part of his PTSD is from Amarantha knew when Starfall was and would lock him away and make him service her on Starfall. So
I hate the way those words sound.
I do too. But you know what? It's the way he...
Yeah, no, I get it. But it just sounds
I am using Reese's words.
That.
She knew what it meant to me. Your heart breaks for this guy because not only is he the villain of the story, not only is he spat upon by his fellow Fae, he was emotionally and sexually abused for 50 years. I will defend this red flag king till the day I die. I love him.
We all will. We will all
He's
hold
wonderful.
up red flags in unison.
He's perfect. He's just...
Okay, can we go to page 430?
Sure.
And there are going to be no answers to this question. Who is the friend that Cassian is hanging out with? We just addressed it a couple minutes ago.
Know.
Now we're going full on attention.
I literally say, who is this? Friend?
What? A tall male, his face in shadow, clasped forearms with Cassian, his white teeth. Oh, just who? Also,
and the way it's described.
If there's an extra male available, I will go to Night Court and I will wear a bad guy face if this extra guy is available. Because if he is described like this, if there's another single dude that needs a chick, I'm willing.
Sure, you'll take one for the team.
I will.
But like Azriel's already there, so we know it's not Azriel. Who is this guy?
Why?
And we never see him again.
Yet? Why do we not know who this is?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it, and I want to know who it is.
Yeah, me too.
I want to know his name. I want to know who my new boyfriend is going to be. I need to know his name.
I want to know the story. And I guarantee you she probably has forgotten about him. Well, Sarah, we haven't.
We have not. We would like to meet him at some point. Could you, maybe in the next book that you're going to write, include this tall male with a shadowy face?
And white teeth?
Just tell me his name. I want to know his name.
The last thing I wanted to talk about in Starfall is on 434, where we see Cassian and Azriel and Moore dancing as though it might be their last time together. Like, this is, I think, the first breadcrumb of we might not all get out of this alive.
There's also the amount of staring that Azriel does at Moore. So it's so obvious that even Feyre, from a separate balcony, involved in her own personal love story, notices Azriel staring at Moore. There is so much buildup about the Cassian Azriel Moore situation, and we can talk about it in the side quest. But if it's Starfall and we're talking about our Starfall chapters, we gotta address it. There's a lot of Azriel staring at Moore, and she's wearing white. She's not even wearing red tonight.
Yeah.
Man, if I could just get somebody like Azriel to pay attention to me like that, boy,
just once.
Howdy. I don't even need the rest of my life just for that moment. I'd take it.
He's wonderful. Anything else you want to talk about before we head to the mentionables?
Yeah, really quick. When we're talking about the gross star dust mush, She considers herself painting again because she's
Mm-hmm.
moving the stardust around. We have heard her make reference to I would like to paint that. If I was going to
Right.
make this painting, I would name it this. I would do this painting in these colors. We've heard her reference it. This is the first time we see her saying, I did paint again, as she's moving those things around
And that's
his
on
hand.
page 438. I had just painted something on him for him. I'd paint it again. We see her healing.
Talk about one last thing, 439. I'm wishing I could take back that kiss under the mountain. Their first kiss is under the mountain, and we didn't address it at the time that, like, hey, pay attention, this is their first kiss. But she says, I sometimes forgot that kiss when he'd done it, because the reason he did it was because she had been hooking up with Tamlin. But he kisses her and makes it look like it was him that was making out with her, taking advantage of her to protect her from Amarantha, because Tamlin was the idiot that couldn't keep his hands off of her and put her in jeopardy. And that was their first kiss. And he's like, I wish I could take that back. Like, I wish our first kiss could have been like, I don't know, right now under Starfall in this magical moment with you wearing that dress and me looking like this guy that I am.
Yeah. It's really, and because I didn't make it pleasant for you, and I was jealous and pissed off, and I knew you hated me.
That kind of does make it cool, though.
It's just, you just think like, yeah, he was so angry because he's the only one who's doing the job. Tamlin's just sitting there, and she was a stupid human who just wanted her boyfriend to like her. And you just think this should have been their first kiss. But instead, she asks him to dance. And I love it.
And it's also closer to real life. Nothing ever works out like a perfect romantasy book.
Okay, let's move on to mentionables. I've already mentioned a lot of them, but 382, we have matching silver rings. They're not iron, they're specifically silver. On 383, Feyre is noticing the weapons of the human guards and specifically notices that they're not Illyrian and how thick and chunky they are. On 388, we get more of the history of Miriam and Dracon. Elaine's last line about wanting them to burn in hell. On page 390, we see Feyre as a caretaker, kind of this role she sometimes adopts where she thinks she needs to get more blood for Amryn. 392, the Black Land is introduced to us, but we never really learn more about it.
I know. And there's like a queen of the Black Land that like we
who's
also
worse than Amarantha?
We don't even know anything about her and never heard about her again.
Right.
392, the Black Land, the queen. Go.
401, we have ash arrows. And then on page 406, we have the table full of food that goes back to that theme of hunger that we've addressed since book 1. No one even touches the food. They find power in just letting it sit and rot. It's so different from her time as a human with food. It's so different from even Tamlin, how he like loads up her plate for her. It's different. It's just, it feels important and worth mentioning. All right, go for your mentionables.
I do have something that kind of relates to that, but I'm going to go in order of the way I have my things listed. 393, we learn about Jurian, Miriam, and Dracon, and this is a big introduction into big plot points that come in the future. So we're just now getting more background information of this thing that becomes really big. We first hear of the Truth Teller on page 408. Truth Teller.
Is that the first time we hear Truth Teller's name?
I think it's the first time we hear the Truth Teller name. I think. I could be wrong, but we did hear about it on 408. This is the first time on page 399. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Huh?
This is where Amryn and Mor talk to Feyre about what a wingspan is. And they also mention that Aziz has the biggest wingspan. And
I love
Rhysand
Rhys's
like,
response.
Do we need to pull out the meter stick when we get home? Or
We'll
whatever, the measuring stick?
We'll get the measuring tape when we get home. And here's the thing. You know Azriel would be like, yeah, fine, whatever. Yeah, I am bigger.
It's no big deal, you guys. I didn't even have control of it. It just happened. There's a lot of cat references. Again, page 385, 387, 392. I think there's more. 411, 429. Nesta hiss. At one point, Reese purred something that he said. I think that's on page 387. Moore's features hissed at her. And then 411, no one for me to punish, that I already pointed out, a cat playing with his food. 429, Feyre's Starfall dress hisses against the floor that it's dragging on. Talking about spiders, page 389. Remember we had the Stygian spiders in Throne of Glass. Sexy talk about wing touching. Page 400 to 401. Feyre and Reese have a little conversation about that. Page 422, this is where I was saying I had something that related to your talking about food comment. Page 422, there's information about like home. Feyre says to herself, Reese is like, let's go home. And she's like, this isn't my home. But she kind of actually then second guesses herself. And she's like, but I do like being here. I do like this place.
Before I could say yes, he grabbed my hand, not meeting my stare, and winnowed us away.
Yeah.
I think she has found her home. She's found her people.
Pages 420 to 421. Reese is being compared to Tamlin, and in a way that he's like, stop comparing me to Tamlin. I am not him. I do not lock you up. I did not do that. Stop doing it. He puts Feyre in her place and being like, I'm 100%. Not that guy. And then page 422 to 424, this is where Reese has already asked her a few pages before, but what is it that you want in life? What do you want, Feyre? And she ends up realizing, I want him. So good. Page 425, we haven't talked about this yet. There are enemies tracking Reese's magic. Every time he winnows, Amren points it out. Whenever he winnows, they're tracking him, and they have ash arrows. Who is tracking him? How are they tracking him? If they're tracking him, how have they not found Valeris yet? There's a lot to unpack that we didn't talk about this episode with this particular enemy's tracking him.
I think it might be Hybern. We will stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, that's all my mentionables. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about next episode.
Let's do it.
Okay, we are going to cover chapters 45 through 51, and that gets us to the end of this section of the book, and all the way up to where we start the House of Mist. And the one thing, I'm going to let you say this, what is the one thing we are looking forward to in this chapter chunk?
Mating bond.
We talk about it. I'm so excited.
I can't wait to see what how it all happens, what we do. Oh, it's going to be good.
Oh, I can't wait for Feyre to hear this for the first time. This is always such a big, important part. And I remember nothing of any book. I remember that from this book. I do remember it. Oh, it's so good. Okay, that's what we're looking forward to. We're also, I think, going to have a side quest coming out about the Morrigan.
Yeah, we're working on that. And yeah, do you want to go maybe meet up for some margs and talk about more and get ready for that side quest?
Girl, I don't know if you know, I hate margaritas, but sure, I will try and meet you in 15 minutes. I'll just this one time.
See you then.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.